Thank you. Could you please take us back to your childhood? Do you remember the Soviet Union? No, I was born in 1990. So, I have the birth certificate as Soviet Union, but I don't remember the Soviet Union. I remember the terrible 90s when my dad was always traveling abroad for work to make some money because there was two of us, me and my brother. My grandma lived in the village where my mom was from, and my mom used to always go there to get milk, and she would bring it back to the city to sell milk, eggs, basically hustling. I remember I used to go with my mom with the super heavy bags, taking little trains and hitchhiking. Well, Soviet Union, I don't remember, but I do remember when the best toy was a stick that we found on the street. Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically we remember all of that. You were with your brother. Can you please, if you want or don't want to answer, but on your streams you used to say that your dad is Ukrainian or mom is Ukrainian? I don't remember. Well, in my birth certificate, it says my dad is Russian and my mom is Ukrainian. Do you know your roots of your family? Like your mom's or your dad's? Well, my mom's not too much because my mom is from the village and not really. My grandpa, I remember, may he rest in peace, but how can I say this? When I grew up until a, an age, and then I found out that he's not really my grandpa, but I always thought of him as my own. I mean, even when I found out that he's not blood, didn't change anything because he loved me and I loved him. But from my dad's side, most of my relatives I know because we had this tradition when the Red Hill, we all get together in the cemetery, all of us, and we would meet all of our relatives, and it's a lot of them. And every year we would gather, and every year I would find out some new family members. Yeah, so you would gather at the cemetery. Yeah, so we would get at the cemetery and then we would go to someone's house. So there are a lot of family members. And then after the war started, I also found out that I have relatives in Moscow. I have an uncle there, a grandpa. I saw them when I was there. And I went over there. My dad told me, you know, you have relatives over there. And, well, my uncle took me in. And then I didn't see my grandpa. But then I went to see my grandpa. And I never met him before. So I met him. And he's an older man. And he's still working. And he's an engineer. So he has this pile of papers with drawings on it. And I asked him, what is it? He said, well, this is my work. So my grandpa, I don't know, he has interest about our roots. He actually did the whole family tree with our families and last names. He likes to do that stuff, like the whole history of our family. So he told me about our family members that I heard about, but I never met. So I remember my great grandma. I saw her once. So he told me a story about her. So he knows, but I don't know much about my roots. And I never dug deep into. So, how much do you know about your mom? You said she was from the village. Is it Donetsk Oblast? Yeah, yeah. So I have this interesting question. How did they know if they were Russian or Ukrainian? Like, for example, if they were from Western Ukraine and they moved to Donbass, they would know. But how did they know in Donbass region who's Ukrainian, who's Russian? Well, as far as I know, uh, back in the day, they used to ask people when the whole, idea appeared of nationalities. It appeared not too long ago. So they used to ask people. So nationality, well, it's all about how you feel. Well, yeah, the idea of nationality appeared like 100 years ago. Yeah, yeah, there you go. And especially those territories where nationalities they intertwine. So Donbass, there's a lot of Russians and a lot of Ukrainians. So in Ukraine, people feel like they're Ukrainian, but to me, it's we're one people. So I was raised the same way. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking you. It's so interesting. How do people know? But basically, you explained that they would ask them verbally and they would just answer. Well, yeah, maybe someone knew their roots. Maybe maybe everybody's Russian, but people don't really know. And they don't know because they don't want to know. They don't know because of certain circumstances, because people moved and migrations and information gets lost. So people don't know about their roots, their far roots. So basically, it's all about how you feel. Well, that's how it used to be. So I lived in Ukraine. So Ukrainian in the Ukrainian language, it means nationality and citizenship. So in Russia, it's different. In Russia, there's a Russian citizen and then there's a Russian nationality. But then there's also an understanding of a Russian that is a broad understanding. Well, you can remember Uzbek people saying I'm Russian or Tartarian people saying I'm Russian. You understand what I'm saying? So in Russia, it's a whole different ball game. In Ukraine, it's Ukrainian and Russian. Well, the way I was raised is I didn't see a difference. I had family in Russia, and I didn't see a difference when we met. We spoke one language. Even when someone spoke Ukrainian, well, practically everyone spoke Russian in my close family. But Russians that live close to Ukraine, they understand Ukrainian. Maybe not all of it, but they understand. The languages are very similar. But to understand, we understand one another, but habits are the same. Mentality is practically the same. Well, the reason I'm asking you is it's interesting to me. When you were little, did you ever even think about these questions? No.